as someone who really has embraced that chaos does not give me the outcomes I want physically, emotionally, professionally. Nothing good comes from chaos. I have a tendency to go into control. And with that, when you are in a situation that you have no control, it's really easy to lose yourself.
Welcome to the Advanced Women's Health Podcast, where we empower women with the latest insights and advice on holistic health. From cutting-edge medical research to practical wellness tips, our mission is to help you thrive at every stage of life. Join us as we explore topics ranging from hormonal balance and reproductive health to nutrition and mental well-being. Whether you're seeking solutions for a specific health concern or simply want to enhance your overall wellness, you're in the right place. Let's embark on this journey to better health together. This is the Advanced Women's Health Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I am really excited today to just this to me just feels like one of those cozy up episodes and let's chat, because coming off of a 5-day trip, I really had a huge opportunity to reflect. Those reflections went to my team, but then I had just so much to say and so many things that I've been talking to patients about on a daily basis. And so I thought it would be great to have it here just so that people can resource it and to it again, but also fundamentally so that I can spread this message a little bit wider. So I had been in a situation with work and life in 2025 that it really just everything kind of was flying as it does in life. But I feel like 2025, a lot of us felt that. There's just this kind of feeling of flying from one thing to the next, not necessarily being super grounded and making decisions from the information we have available, but fundamentally just needing space and time and the world to slow down a little bit to integrate and take the lessons and figure out what we're going to do with that. So I booked a trip with one of my friends who's also an entrepreneur, and we went to Costa Rica into the jungle and took 5 days and walked and exercised and did yoga and just ate great food, went in hot springs. It was such a wonderful trip, but it was a really good lesson for me in terms of at the level I'm at now, how the number of people I support, whether that's in my courses, my certification, whether that is the patients that I see or the team that I support, it is critically important for me to have space to reflect and think and make really good decisions. And so with that, I was able to sit in and reflect for our team on what I wanted 2026 to look like and what kind of expectations and outlines and things that I wanted. And I always say, whenever you're building a big mission or like building a big thing or driving a big mission, there needs to be a really strong why behind it, which is why for so many people, the book, it starts with why. It's Simon Sinek, I think, maybe, but it's a book so many of my friends who are entrepreneurs who have big visions, want to do big things, revisit consistently because our why is such an important thing. And for me, my why has always been excellence. It's always been what our values are: community, collaboration, curiosity, education, excellence. That's what I want women's health to be able to represent at Advanced Women's Health and outside of it. It's also what we represent at Advanced Men's Health, which is something we launched later last year and you will hear a lot more about. But for me, one of the really big things that I think we need to integrate and understand is that the world is not necessarily going to move slower. But if we want these things for ourselves, we need to take that slow. So that's actually something I said to my team, all of my team. I was like, we need more time for strategy. We need more time to just not let the rest of the world dictate our priorities or our health, right? We need the opportunity to disconnect, whether that's you're going on a trip or whether that is you are taking a day to catch up, to be grounded. That's part of excellence. And so we need to understand when to hit the pause button. And I'm not saying this from a place of burnout, because that was also one of the big lessons for me is that burnout doesn't come from busy. I've been far busier at other points in my life and not felt emotionally exhausted. Like, I describe burnout for myself as when I've lost my creativity. If I'm going through the motions, if I don't have that creative fire and drive underneath me, that constant drive to make something better or different, or like these different pieces is a part of who I am. That's why everyone gets scared when I come back from vacation because they're like, Sarah's going to come with 20,000 new ideas. But this vacation was really to me about integration and about reflection and about creating this space to say burnout comes from not being aligned with your values. And so if I am dealing with lawsuits and protecting myself and protecting this business and this brand and all of these types of things that comes as a business grows, then I am pulled out of alignment with the values that I have. And so my job and everyone's job is to get back into alignment with that. And one of the pieces that comes up with all those things I just talked about with 2025, with being out of alignment with values, is this conversation around control. So this is something that I've had this conversation so much recently, so much with people, because there is a lot of things in the world that are out of our control, like a lot. And it's hard as someone who loves control, as someone who really has embraced that chaos does not give me the outcomes I want physically, emotionally, professionally. Nothing good comes from chaos. I have a tendency to go into control. And with that, when you are in a situation that you have no control, it's really easy to lose yourself. And I'm seeing that in patients right now. I'm seeing people that are reflecting on the world, reflecting on politics, reflecting on the economy, reflecting on these really, really big things, reflecting on all of the stuff they're carrying from friends, family, and coworkers in their lives that aren't theirs. And they're not things they can control. And they are losing sleep. Their nervous system is wildly dysregulated. They are just struggling in every sense of the word. And we'll get into this, but whenever we live in that state, there's sacrifices, and those sacrifices require cleanup. But it's one of the first things we need to do is to embrace the fact that we have control and we need to re-navigate or renegotiate control of a situation. So that doesn't mean that I can change what's happening in the US. And as the wife of a Latino, as a person in the world, I have very strong feelings about things. But within that, I can't change that. But what can I change? The reality is that burnout, trauma, these different types of things is simply a change in behavior that's semi-permanent. So if you are quote unquote resilient, and when people say I'm quote unquote resilient, when I get hit with a challenge, when I get hit with something that's outside of my control, when I get hit with something that is maybe perceived as a struggle, resilience is defined as how long it takes me to get back to the activities that I want. It's even like if you get sick, right? So when I look back at 2024 and 2025, I got viral meningitis. I was traveling a ton. We were then sick. My kids were sick back to back to back to back from November to about March. And within that, I had no resilience. Like I started that year with the gas tank empty because my behavior was constantly changed out of alignment with my goals. There was someone always in my bed. Someone was always sick. We were not sleeping through the night. I was sick. You cannot exercise the same way when you're sick. I was tired. I was making different decisions. We were dealing with a lot of values misalignments, a lot of people who I was just not proud to be around. All of these things were happening. And so with that, that derailed me. That changed my behavior and made me feel out of control of a situation, which had then an impact on my nervous system, on how I thought through my day, how I experienced today. It changes your lens of perception, right? And so that took me having a wake-up call saying, absolutely not. I am in control of this situation. I can navigate even the smallest amounts of control in every situation. So I can control what I look at on the news. I can control what my kids are exposed to. I can control where I spend my money. I can control a lot of different things. And that does not fix anything, but does allow me to be regulated within the midst of it. So I always say, your question has to be, can I fix it? Or am I just treading water, stressing myself out about something I cannot fix? If you can be an active participant in the solution, be an active participant in the solution. If you cannot, then you need to figure out a way to navigate, control, and get back in alignment with your values. That may be not seeing things, that may be controlling the conversation. There's a lot of different things that may look like, but fundamentally, what I see happening with so many of my patients is that they have an issue. So, like, it's as small as, for example, a project at work is not going their way. They've done their part. They are accountable for that project, but other people are not doing their part. Cool. So they feel out of control. They're stressed. They're up all night. They're trying to figure out what they can do. Their food behavior's gone out the window because people are delivering on the deadlines late. And for any of you listening, I'm not just talking about one patient. So if anyone's like, she's calling out my stories, where I'm not, this is happening everywhere, right? So then you get your deliverable late, then you're rushing, you're staying up late, you are again like burning the candle at both ends in these like sprint like episodes. You're not eating well during that period of time, etc. Then you come out of it, your behaviors change because your routine has changed. You don't get back to the gym. You consistently sleep later. You instead of filling that time with spreadsheets, you fill that time with Netflix. So your sleep routine goes off, and then you almost like forget or black out what some of your favorite healthy recipes are because it's been a few months. So then you feel like you're starting from scratch. Your energy is lower because your blood sugar is out of balance. You are more, again, anxious. Your body has changed. You just feel defeated. And so when we look at it, it's like, what do you have control of there? Can I control that other person? No. Can you control the deadlines and when you get things? Potentially. Hard to say. Honestly, some work environments, the answer to that question is no. You just have to deal with what you got. Can you get a food delivery service that ensures you have healthy food available to you? Yeah, you can. Can you get a walking pad so that when you are on these stacked meetings, you can move your body? Yeah. Or go outside, depending on where you are. Some of you listening to this are probably dealing with much nicer weather than we are here. But can you control your schedule? So can you say, hey, I got this deliverable late. Sorry to everyone who I have meetings with today. I have to prioritize this. And so therefore I'm canceling or moving these other meetings. If people then ask questions and say, well, why are we canceling it? Why did you get that late? They can do their own digging. But what can you control? And what I find is my patients who are most burnt out, most overwhelmed, struggling in the biggest ways are often also in a situation where they feel like there's resistance to that feeling of control. So I'm like, what can you control? Nothing. Okay, cool. Like, that's totally fine. That's your lens of perception. That just tells us how bad things are right now. Let's play around with all of the different things we can control. And then just staying really curious. Again, curiosity being such a huge value of mine. Then we go in and we say, okay, when the event is done, when the project is done, you can control everything. So we then need to define resilience as how quick you get back to that place. So this is where I think kind of the integrative world comes in a big way. Why? So when someone is going through a short period of stress, it's changed their habits and routines. We can do a lot short term to help that person. So we can use herbs like nervines, in some situations, melatonin to calm the body down and reestablish a healthy sleep routine. We can control when someone eats. We can, like I said, we can control meal delivery services, et cetera, and customize that. If your digestive system gets hit really hard with stress, we can do antimicrobials if it's needed. We can do motility support to ensure you're not constipated. We can, again, whatever that looks like, the gingers, the digestive enzymes, those systems, a barogas of the world to support someone's overall digestive health. So we can focus in on that. If you were eating like crap and then now you're having a lot of cravings, okay, well, that's why we have herbs that can help to lower insulin quicker. That's why we do things like Prolon or the fasting mimicking diet to hit a reset button. So we can use these as like cheat codes to be able to navigate forward and to be able to get you back to where you want to be. And we're in a world right now where this is part of why I think my tendency with creating content has changed a little bit. And we're very much going to be going back to the team coming on and sharing and all those types of things because it's such an important piece to me. This is not the Dr. Sarah show, as I always say.
Today's episode is brought to you by none other than Advanced Women's Health. If you are interested in diving in deeper to your health, if you are finally ready to feel like yourself, and you are finally over hearing everything's normal, everything's fine, and you want a deeper dive into your healthcare, then we are here to help you. We are currently helping patients in British Columbia and Ontario, Canada. But don't worry, if you're in another province, still reach out, get added to the waitlist as we expand coast to coast. We cannot wait to work with you. Check out the show notes for more information on how to get started.
We live in a world right now where there's so much information. And so we don't necessarily need more information. We need people to sit with us, help us action it, pick it apart, help us understand what our patterns are, and help us to fundamentally move forward in a way that is the most accurate given the moment. Because we were just talking about short-term stressors, but if you have a long-term stressor, I always talk about the pillars of health, the 5 to 7 causes of disease, right? So within that, those pillars, those foundations most of them are thrown off by a chronic removal from healthy behaviors, whether that's a chronic stress response, whether that's chronic food changes, a lot of these things, blood sugar and insulin absolutely changed, right? With high levels of stress responses, we get higher levels of glucose and we can have high levels of or changes in insulin signaling and insulin resistance. We get more inflammation. We are seeing right now an epidemic of low white blood cells. And yes, this is from viruses that are circulating. They're a little bit more aggressive, taking longer for our immune system or our bone marrow to recover and make these white blood cells, sure. But it's also just from the fact that that virus is the last drop in the bucket. And your body's like, I can't make more. So we are trading a healthy immune response for an inflammatory, damaging immune response as a society right now. Then we go through and we say, okay, what's going on with your liver? Well, if you start drinking alcohol, which a lot of people do, we are seeing that right now too. If you're in that camp, like zero judgment, but we are seeing more people have a dependency on alcohol to regulate their stress response, have a dependency on nicotine and smoking to regulate their stress response. These things give you a really quick hit and a really quick change in physiology, which is also where I like supplements because supplements can also give you that quick hit and that quick change in physiology. But when we are looking at those pillars, right? So the liver is going to come involved. Gut bacteria are shifting. We know they shift. The vaginal microbiome. I think we should do a whole episode, honestly, on the vaginal microbiome because there's so much happening there with hormonal shifts that are happening, which again, we see shifts in estrogen and progesterone with these chronic stress responses. We see nutrient deficiencies. You're not absorbing things as well. We see low energy and poor cellular energy or mitochondrial function. All of these things then loop on each other. And we get caught in a loop of dysfunction. That's why I call it high performance burnout. We get caught in this loop of dysfunction. That's why I call it itty bitty shitty committee, right? But with chronic stress, when you try to hit the reset button, it can feel really hard. And sometimes your tendency and what you want to go back to. So for example, what used to work for you in the past, you go back to that and it doesn't work now. And then you get frustrated and feel like your body's broken. But it's just like, we can't just go back to comfort, right? Resilience is how quickly we get to the change in behavior that we need, which may be different. And we have been through so much collective stress that I think there is this feeling that if I get back to a certain place, a certain weight, a certain sleep schedule, whatever that is, that's going to fix all my problems. And it's not. And so when we look at that, we just need to have these opportunities to reset, get data, and change our behavior. And so that's where I use, again, and I talked about it a little bit in the last couple episodes, but I'm using a ton of sleep tracker data and understanding what's actually going on with sleep, restorative sleep, deep sleep. I'm using a lot of movement data because we've just lost touch. Like some days I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm tired. I moved all over. I was a busy day. And then I look and I got like 4,000 steps. I'm like, oh God, okay. Okay. Not gonna, we got to get that treadmill going, right? Because right now it's quite gross outside. But that habitual movement, so many of those patterns we don't necessarily realize. And if we're not tracking, then we don't see habitual snacking, habitual alcohol consumption. All of these pieces are things that just shift in a low grade way that have a really, really big impact. And so when we're rebuilding resilience plans for yourself or as a patient, we do really need to understand where did the damage happen and what are we going to be doing to get ourselves back to resilience, and where can you take your control trauma and really shift it in a way that is very productive and proactive as opposed to it being damaging and detrimental. And I've talked about this a lot with my team, and I've talked about this a lot across the board is we really need to, as a collective, as women, as a society, prioritize taking these days for ourselves, whether it's an hour, an afternoon, a morning at a coffee shop. It doesn't have to be 5 days in Costa Rica. Uh, I had hit the 5 days in Costa Rica point, and my God, it served me in so many ways. But where can we take these moments and say, where have I shifted my behavior? How have I shifted my behavior? And where can I navigate back to a place of control in a healthy way? Where have I given up entirely? And as someone who's navigated so many seasons postpartum, seasons of significant illness, seasons of chronic pain, again, like the list goes on. I understand how easy it is to navigate far from your baseline and then just almost feel like you're drowning in terms of where to go back. And so you just look and you say, okay, what can I audit? What can I change? And one of the quickest things is your calendar. Where do you have hopes and dreams and wishes that your day is going to be different than it is? If I look at my calendar, there are days that I have 6 to 8 hours of meetings a day. And if I have a whole bunch of deep work projects that need to be done on that day, that is just setting myself up for failure. That I'm going to feel stressed. I'm going to feel burnt out. I'm going to be like, oh, I don't have it. I don't have that creative energy in me anymore. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. The reality is that I didn't have the space and the time. If I don't have time for a workout in my calendar, then why do I put it on my list of things I'm going to accomplish that day? That just like sets me up to be out of integrity with myself. Again, like where are you looking at the things you can control in your world, whether that's food, movement, your calendar, your social activities, your lack of social activities? Where are you looking at that from a place of like feeling like not a victim? Some of you may feel like a victim to it, which is fine, but just feeling wildly out of control. And what can you do to start to take those steps to navigate back? How can you start to reset expectations? Culture is a household thing. Culture is a workplace environment. Culture is our societies, the people, friends. We get to determine what that culture is. So it's even small things like with my oldest, I was like, we all think this, but he's very intelligent. And so homework for him is just like non-existent. It's very boring. He doesn't like doing it. We have no structure and routine around learning in our household because he passively picks things up very quickly. And we do a lot of the things that he would do as homework at an advanced level on a day-to-day basis. So even coming back, I was like, we need to get in a culture of organization in this household. We can't be like every day, what's happening? Where's the agenda? Again, like, have you submitted your homework? Because I know he's done it, but like, have you submitted it? We need to have structure around that. right? We need to sit down and look at the calendar for who's doing pickups, drop-offs, what support do we need, what big projects do we have, what space do we need. That has to be a culture of organization with my husband and I. And our kids are in lots of activities. We really value keeping them active. So there needs to be an understanding of like what happens during those activities, right? Is both kids going and one parent gets the opportunity to exercise? Are we dividing and conquering? Like, what do these things look like? And you can make so many of these decisions in advance. These do not need to be day to day, moment to moment decisions. That is part of where decision fatigue comes in. I felt like in the fall, I was making so many decisions about my personal health because I just wasn't in a pattern of like, this is how it goes. Every meal, every day, every workout felt like a decision, where, as opposed to just, okay, we need to just like hit the refresh button here and acknowledge that I follow the same template for food. I follow the same template for movement. Like that is just how my life is structured. And so resilience is the fact that I got far away from that as I traveled a lot in the fall and it was cold out and all these types of things. So I needed to rejig it, but with the same structure. So I won't keep rambling on here, but for so many of you, I'm having these conversations. You are overwhelmed with information, and the lessons of it are not integrating. We are in this place where we are almost reflecting on other people's lives more than our own, where we're feeling out of control, where we're feeling really aspirational, but we're not actually actioning those things. And for so many people, we just see this like consistent habitual navigation away from the goals as opposed to towards it, away from resilience as opposed to towards it. And then it's so easy to feel helpless and overwhelmed. And it doesn't have to feel that way. You can absolutely feel empowered and take back control any day, any moment. Doesn't have to be a Monday at 9 a.m. Doesn't have to be January 1st. Any single day, you have that opportunity to put your feet on the ground and say, it's going to be different. And let's do this in a different way and prioritize myself and my needs and my resilience and control what I can control. So your homework today is make a list of all the things you can control that you're not. If you feel like you're spinning, if you feel like you've lost a lot of the habits you had, if you feel like 2025 was a really challenging year, or the alternative is I have some patients right now, 2025 was a great year, but they almost like overindulged. And so they fell out of resilience with that. And so just look at what has the best you've ever been felt like? And where have you deviated from that? How have you deviated from that? And what can you put in place to rebuild integrity with yourself and rebuild a culture and environment around yourself where you feel empowered, strong, in control, and you know that you have all the data and all the support and everything you need to action your goals. And I want everyone to go in with that level of confidence, because I see people come in and they want something, but they don't even feel they have the confidence to do it. And so it's a big piece of the conversations we're having in the app, that we're having internally, is just what situation, what environment needs to change, where you need more white space, thoughtfulness, discipline, excitement. Where do you need more of this drive? Where do you need to set bigger goals so that you have something to be excited about? All of these things are just a really critical part of my reflection process, and hopefully can give you a little bit of value as well. So I hope you enjoyed this solo episode. We will go back to regularly programmed health content, but you are definitely going to see a theme of lessons from me this year as we navigate a world where information is cheap, but the lessons come from the implementing it, and where people need to learn from the lessons and the mistakes and the successes of other people so that we don't just keep repeating the same patterns. And that's, I think, one of the things we're going to see is without that reflection, without those pauses, without that opportunity, AI is just going to keep spitting out things that have caused the same problem for the same other person. And so the value is going to come from the lessons of people who took it, actioned it, and plowed through it. And they're through the other side telling you how to do it in a way that could be different for you. So apply that to health, apply that to business, apply that to friendships, relationships, life, apply that wherever you need to apply it. But where can you get control? And how do we build resilience through recognizing what's fallen off and how to get back there quicker? So have a beautiful day, And I cannot wait to talk to you guys on the other side.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you had as much fun as we did. And if you loved today's episode, share it with a friend and leave us a review. That is how we spread this message, and that is how we are going to revolutionize healthcare in Canada for women. Have a beautiful day and be well.